last interview you did with him, I believe, one of the things I noted about Trump was that he would do something about every 10 minutes that was markedly out of the ordinary conversationally. And so I watch for that because I'm a clinician. And so I always watch people talk to see when they're going off script, let's say, because there's always something underneath that. And one of the things Trump does, and I don't know how much of this is conscious and how much of it is reactive and how much of it has become habitual, is he'll say utterly proper, he'll make statements that are way over the top. So I think he said, for example, when you were interviewing, something like, I tell the truth more than anyone ever has in history. And then he said about 10 minutes later, something like, I've run the best administration in American history. And they're over the top, preposterous statements. And they have this self-aggrandizing element that's got a juvenile flavor to it. And I'm not doing a global critique of Trump's personality because I suspect, as you've already indicated, that he's a multifaceted person. But there's an element of him he's got this 10-year-old bully part of him that also has a compensatory element. And so to say, I tell the truth more than anyone has in history or something along those lines, I think, well, like, who are you comparing yourself here to exactly? Like, you tell the truth more than Jesus Christ. You run a better administration than Abraham Lincoln or George Washington. And it's marked because people don't generally do that in conversation, right? They don't come out with a preposterous statement about how remarkable they are with some degree of regularity. And now it seems to me to be associated with some other tendencies that he has. Like, he has a tendency to nickname people, and he has unerring accuracy in doing that, and it can be devastating.
Remember, he's a real estate tycoon in Manhattan. His whole persona for 50 years before he became president was to show off, embellish, and exaggerate everything. Every one of his buildings, you can imagine the pitch. This is going to be the greatest building New York's ever seen. That was in his DNA. So it's perfectly normal for me that he would take those kind of natural traits to the presidency and continue to be self-aggrandizing in the way he was about his buildings. He'd done it for 50 years. That's how he squeezed big prices for his buildings. Everything was the best and the greatest ever seen.
Yeah, well, that's part of that American salesman routine, right? I mean, that's deeply embedded in the American DNA.
Right, he's not the only New York real estate tycoon who's like that. Trust me, I've met a few. But I also think that he also in the book says, if somebody punches you, punch them 10 times harder. Like, that was in his DNA too. Trump has come from a rough old school of New York business people where the ones who survive and thrive are the ones who, if they get hit, metaphorically or perhaps even physically, they hit back 10 times and harder. That's always been Trump's way. So if you insult him, he'll come for you hard. And if you can survive that, well, good. But many people, including all the candidates in 2016 on the Republican side, they couldn't withstand the nicknames. I mean, the nickname thing was fascinating. To watch him call Marco Rubio Little Marco, and you suddenly thought, wow, he is quite little, isn't he? Low energy Jeb, about Jeb Bush. But Bush couldn't work out whether to carry on being himself and potentially radiate low energy, or what he ended up doing, which was being sort of like a hyper bunny, going way too far the other way to contradict the rumors of being low energy, and he looked completely insane. So Trump was able, and lying Ted about Ted Cruz, crooked Hillary, simple tags they found very hard to struggle.
Yeah, he was very good at that.
He's a brilliant marketer. Mm-hmm. He knows how to sell things. He knows how to market things, and he knows how to do it in a very damaging way to